on those parameters, we find out certain insights with the help of visualization. Right now, what helps to visualize those things? That is the Power BI. So that is the third component of this Power Platform, right? And the fourth component is something which you might require or may not, right? So this is to add the artificial intelligence component to the application, and that is mainly done to create a component called chatbot, right? So that is Power Virtual Agents, right? So these are the four important components of this course, and along with this course or along with these components, we would need certain placeholders that will uh, bring into the connection of these components with each other so that they function in synchrony, right? So for that we have certain features. Right. So what are the features that we saw? One of them is connectors. Right. So I want to work with Power Apps and I want to connect to database. Right. I want to connect to various views, or I want to connect with certain other functionality. So I will have different types of connectors that will help me. So that is one of the feature. The other feature is AI Builder. So as I said, the AI Builder will be used to actually bring in that component of Power Automate. Right. So we want to create chatbot by itself needs some artificial intelligence component, right? So that it can reply based on users questions, right? And for that we will have things like Power Virtual Agents. Now how do these work on things like AI Builder? So AI Builder is one of the other components, right? And the other thing that we work with is the large variation in data and its handling, right? So data and its handling by itself is called as Dataverse, right? So yesterday we saw that a big 5-layer API rainbow, right? So what does that take care of? Right from authentication till the data or their integration, right? So there were 5 steps. One was talking about the authentication, authorizations with the help of token or whatever it is. Second thing took care of the business logic application, right? Third was the data itself, the ways in which we store data. The fourth was the storage, right? What are the components in where this data can be stored and retrieved from? And fifth is the integration of these various components, right? So as I also mentioned that the data that we are storing can be, the structure of that data can be different, right? So we don't need to specify or stick with one format of data. It can be a relational database, it can be unstructured database, it can be a document database, or it can be an API based database. So all these things can be a part or can contribute some or the other way in my application, and therefore I need to use all these four, and I need to have a very good integration for these components, right? So that is the fourth part. So this all comes into the Dataverse, which is a very important connector of this course, right? So we talked about 4 components and 3 features mainly. Okay, let me just see if I can share. Yeah, so I can share now. Anyway, so in the last session, we talked about the first component or the very first part of this course, that is Introduction to Power Apps, right? And we studied about what Power Apps are, what is the use of Power App, right? What business problems it is dealing with, and we tried to take care of 4 major problems or 4 major issues that would arise in the conventional way of creating applications, right? One was, let me just go through those 4 one by one. The one was changing of the application needs, right? As soon as the business is changing, it will require certain changes to be done. Now if I'm creating a conventional application, that is code based application, I'll have to take the shelter of the developers again. Every now and then there is a small change in the application. So that process is very cumbersome, right? I'm not sharing anything. Just give me a minute. Let me just recap. Let me then we'll share so that we take the proceedings of this workshop. Okay. So that is the first challenge that we need to take care of. The second challenge is cost, right? So as soon as there is a new feature launched or something else that I want in my application, I need to look at its feasibility, right? Its incorporation with my application, right? So for that, again, a new feature comes, there is a lot of cost involved, and that can be taken care of with this no code or no code applications, right? So we try to reduce cost. That is the second thing. The third thing is the application to become agile, right? See, it is one thing to have a change, and it is second thing to have a change quickly, right? Having a change is one challenge, but to have it quickly is a very another challenge, right? And that is again, as I said, the process is very cumbersome. So we want to make these applications adapt to changes and respond accordingly very frequently, right? So this is agile development, and that is the reason we this challenge is also for some extent or to major extent is taken care of by this Power Platform, right? And the fourth thing is to make the application scalable, right? Now, how do we make it scalable? That is one thing again, and to efficiently scale it, that is second thing, right? So efficient scaling can be done when we not only involve certain developers with experience, but also developers who are very new to this, but where are very experienced with the business demands, right? So what I mean to say is, let us say we want to create an application, and that application is very business driven. Okay, so the people who are actually taking care of that application without any app till now, they know how the business work, right? Although they don't know the intricacies involved in coding and creating the application, but they know what the problem is, what can be the problem statement, and what can be the measures to deal with them, right? So they know that. So at this point, they have the basic question statement on what is the problem and how do we solve it, right? To bring this problem into one place and its solution in one place, we need app, right? So they can create their own app with the help of Power Platform. For that, they don't need any technical background, they don't need any coding background, right? Then there is the second step of improving this
Excuse me,
application.
sir.
Yes.
Sir, are you sharing your screen also?
No, I'm not sharing anything, I mentioned, right?
Okay, sir.
So I'm just recapping on what went yesterday, and when I'll be sharing, I'll be going with the new content. Okay. Yeah, so that is the thing. The second thing is we want that application to work efficiently. Now that is the second step, right? The problem statement is still there. There is a scope of improvement which can be done with experienced developers, right? So the developer who has experience with all this code based or no code applications can create better application and make it efficiently. So they can have a small application or a pre-created application that was not that efficient but deals with problem statement, right? And then an improvement can be done. So what we are doing here, we're trying to scale out the application in levels of developers, right? So this is an efficient way because the problem statement is conserved every time, right? The developers won't know what the problem statement is, and the business owners won't know what the coding is, right? So we are bringing out, we are collaborating these people so that the business owners by themselves create a basic version of application which takes care of the problem statement, and improvement can be done by the experienced one, right? And then there is feedback. So this cycle goes on until the application becomes perfect, right? So this is the fourth thing that, or fourth challenge that we're trying to take care of. All right. So these are the things that we studied, kind of read out yesterday. And then we came to the first component, that is PowerApps, right? So I'll just share my screen. Now I'll be sharing my screen, okay? Okay, can you all see my screen? Can you all see the slides? Okay. Is the slide visible or should I maximize it? Should I make it the slideshow? I was facing some issues with that, but I'll try. Visible, right? I can even zoom it a bit. Yeah, is this good enough? Okay, fine. Yeah, so we are getting started with Power Apps. This is the first component. And what is the agenda? We'll try to do these three things, right? Understand what Power Apps are, try to build a Canvas app with the help of lab assignments or the labs that we have, right? So you and I will be on one side, and there will be this what we call a to-do list on what needs to be done every step by step, right? So we'll be all following that. Some of you may have got the training keys also, so you can work along. But those who did not get, don't worry, you'll get later so that you can work on, right? These sessions will be available. So there's hardly any need to refer to these sessions. I mean, refer to, you don't need somebody to tell you everything every time. So that is not required. Okay, so we'll start with introduction of PowerApps. Right. So what is PowerApp basically? We are talking about PowerApps. A lot of time we have mentioned that it is a low code and no code platform that is used for building applications. And the very fourth objective that it is serving, which I mentioned, is taking care of business needs with the help of amateur developers. They know the problem statement, and experienced developers, they know how to make it efficient. Right. So this is what PowerApps is doing. Okay. The second thing is work with data and where it lives. So what we are basically talking about, we're talking about what is this data, how do we store it, and how do we make use of it, how do we leverage this data. Okay, so the first thing is, initially when there is no application for a business associated, probably the business owners or the frontline workers of that business are working with uh, probably the Excel sheets or probably page, right? They are writing their records on the page, right? So data is somewhere conserved, that is okay, but how do you use that data, how do you make insights from that data, right? So there is a way of storing data which is again an inefficient way, but now there is no way in which you can use that data uh, uh, for estimating the future things, right? Estimating the future decisions. You cannot take that decision because you don't know what insights the data is giving, how is my data flow, right? So for that, what is PowerApps helping you with? The PowerApps is helping you with things like Dataverse, right? So Dataverse is one of the components, features, right? Dataverse is one of the features, and we have talked about Dataverse in detail, right? So there is everything right from API till the integration, right? And everything takes care of not only storing your data, but how can you use it in better way, right? So this data not only gets its real time use in the application, right, but also can be stored and archived so that we can later use it and bring about insights from it, right? So a better way for that is to actually store the data somewhere, and for that we will be working with Dataverse, right? And there are other connectors also. One of it very prominent that we are using is Dataverse, but there are things like SharePoint, Dynamics 365, Azure SQL Server, and Office 365. So all these things, all these applications are nothing but the connectors where which somewhere deal with data and help us with other things, right? Minimize toolbar, minimize toolbar. This one. Okay, fine. All right, so this is how we work with data and where it lives in one of the connectors, and we'll basically deal with Dataverse. Right. Now, what are the types of application that we'll create? Okay, so one is the Canvas app. What is Canvas app actually? Canvas app is nothing but an application that you can build based on a particular screen from the scratch. So it's just like a Word document, right? So when you create a new Word document, what happens? You see a blank document, right? And everything that you do later is there so that you can I mean, you have the tools, you just bring them, write things, include text, include images, and everything comes up, right? So that is one thing. Second thing is, if you open if you have observed, when you open Word, along with the blank document, there are things like templates which somewhere help you in creating certain specific document. For example, if I'm looking for a profile page, right, so there is a template for that. If I'm looking for a resume, there is a template, right? If I'm looking for probably what we call some business related document, there is a template. So it's that the same code, I mean, the templates are created from the same tools, only that they help us in making it more effective, right? So that is one thing. This is Canvas app. All right. What is model driven apps? Model driven app has two components that we dealt with, that we talked about, right? One component is its ability to respond, right? It is responsive. We don't need to specify explicitly what screen we are talking with or what screen we'll be working with. So database, sorry, model driven apps are basically an application that are responsive applications, right? And second thing is, since it is model driven, it will be related with the data, right? So the database that we are storing in the tables and everything that we are storing in database, which is again stored in Dataverse, how do we use that? right? So when we are using that data and making an application, this is called as model driven application. As the name suggests, they are driven by models, right? So that is one thing. And the third thing is portals. So the portals are nothing but websites, basically websites that are that are facing externally, which are available on browser, so any general user can have a look at it, right? Obviously there are some access control, there are things that the user can see, the things that user can subscribe to, and there are things that he does not have control, right? So those things are definitely there, right? Now apart from this types of power apps, apart from the types, what do we have in common? They have in common the security concerns, right? So the security that is involved with Microsoft in general is there with any of this application, right? So it's not that I create an application for my business and it is able to penetrate to every possible secure page, right? So that will not happen. Any application that is created on Power Apps has to go through the security measures. And what happens is they cannot infiltrate the security. They cannot bypass the security. So that security measures are there, right? This is one thing. Then the other component is adding artificial intelligence component with the no code prediction model, right? So we want to add an artificial intelligence component to the application, right? How do we do that? With the help of certain models which are predefined. Okay, so Microsoft or Power Platforms by itself has some predefined models that help us in understanding or incorporating artificial intelligence. So since they are predefined, we just need to configure them with the application, right? And doing that will help us or will prevent us from creating code or writing machine learning models, right? That is the thing. All right, so this is what we are doing or trying to do with the Power Apps, right? Now the second step or the steps after these are to automate certain processes and see the insights, right? So the agenda for today's workshop will be creating Power Apps which is, I mean, and there will be two types. One will be the Canvas app, and then will be the model driven app. Okay, so those things will be there, and later on we'll in the later session we'll look at the other components, that is the Power BI and virtual agents, right? So we'll talk about Canvas app, right? So Canvas apps are a great option when you want to build app from a blank canvas, right? So as I mentioned, when you create a Canvas app, the first thing that you need to do is define what application it will be, whether it is a mobile application, tablet application. Okay, once you do that, you will get a blank screen or you can get a template, right? So you can use that blank screen when, if you are very familiar with the code, sorry, not the code, the tools, right? So tools, what do I mean by tools? I'll come to that. Okay, so if you are very familiar with the tools, you don't need a template. But you're not very familiar or new to this, or you are very specific to a particular thing, then you can go with the template, right? What needs to be done? What we need to do is add extra resources. What we will do, I mean, the fields that we want in that application, and connect that application to the databases, right? Now how do we add components or tools in the application? With the help of the tools that is there in the Power App dashboard or workspace. All right, so we'll come to that. So that is one of the component. And how do we do that? We'll just drag and drop tools, right? So we click or drag and drop, those things will be readily available and functional. Okay, so that is the thing. And second thing that we want is, let's say I have multiple components and I want to find the value of one component, or uh, make changes in one component based on the entries in other components. You're getting what I mean? So let's say there are four components, four input fields. Let's say one is number one, number two, number three, and the final one is the product of all these numbers, right? So the final one is actually governed by the first three inputs, right? And that first three inputs once are actually taken by the user. So when I put the three inputs, I in the fourth input or in the fourth bar, I get the product. How do I define that? So for that we have functions, right? So these functions are basically nothing but we write some Excel like formulas in the functions, which work like Excel but looks as if we are writing code for them, right? So if I want to write a function in a code base, I would write, everything in a particular language, taking three inputs, adding them, or product make doing the product and then returning the final value. So all these things are done just by writing a simple function. Okay, see a lot of chats. Okay, slides are not moving. Is that an issue?
Yeah, it's moving.
Moving, right? So this is about the Canvas app. Okay, so next is model driven apps. So what did I talk about model driven apps? You don't need to worry about what screen size, right? So they are responsive. They can work on mobile, they can work on tablet and everything, right? What is important is here we are functioning, or we are using function which are based on data. So we're connecting our application with the data with the help of any connector, right? In our case, it will be Dataverse. So what we'll be doing is storing our data and database in the Dataverse, and then connecting the Dataverse with the application, right? Now, when the data is connected, an application becomes specific to that data, right? So we will create fields that is specific to data. We'll look for fields that is specific to data, right? And then we create other things like relationships. Why? Because there are data, there is tables. So multiple tables, there will be definitely a relationship, right? There are forms which actually give you the understanding of what are the records there that is coming on the screen, right? So when we incorporate a data with the application, the table, the entries or records in the table will actually be reflected on the application. That is called as view, right? So you see that you define relationships, forms, views, right? So the data that is coming from the database and available on the screen is called as view. Now we want to see each record in detail, that is called as forms. Okay, and we talked about business rules. What is business rules? Business rules are some if conditions. It's not basically if conditions, but they act like they are in if conditions, and they change certain field based on certain entries on the data, right? So if the data, there is an entry, what will happen? The entries in the data will govern how certain things will change. And what will govern that exactly? The business rule, right? So all these things is happening inside Dataverse, and therefore we are able to control it, right? And the formulas, where are we writing? The formulas will be writing in the functions tab. So we define function and write formulas which are very similar to Excel formulas, right? So this is how this model driven apps work. And then the third apps are portals. So basically these are no code solutions. Okay, but what are they? Basically they are websites, right? The client facing or users facing websites, which do not really functionally, they don't do much, but they give a lot of information, right? So what we can do is we can do things on a particular app and then export that data to portals and show what is happening in the form of insights. So if you can see on the right image here, there is some bar graphs, and there is some this is called as heat map, right? So this heat map of USA, right? And heat map of USA is getting some data uh, which I don't interact with, but I get the information, right? So generally the websites, what do websites do? They give you information, and there are individual pages where you can interact, right? So it's not that you can interact with every part of website. So that's the thing. Application, you'll interact with every page, but websites, they give you information. So these are portals. So these are the three types of application that we create, right? So what did I say when we talked about what do Power Apps give, right? So apart from APIs, apart from data, apart from artificial intelligence, apart from types of application, what do they give? They give you security and administration, right? So there is this component of Power Apps, admin slash Power Apps, which takes care of all the access based things, right? So how do you want to give access, right? Whether it is role based access or discretionary access or mandatory access that is given to everyone, right? What kind of access will be there? How can one bypass those access? How can one take access? So all these rules, all these policies can be mentioned for an application. Okay, so there is a provision where you can add policies on the application with on the PowerApps interface also, right? So all those things are governed by security and administration part of PowerApps. Okay, and driving business value, we understand the term, right? We are trying to get the problems from a business and allow Power Apps to govern them, or Power Apps to drive them, right? This is what this second tab means. All right, and then there is artificial intelligence. So I talked about artificial intelligence, but let's see what are the models that are there already there with Microsoft. So there are four types of models. One is prediction, form processor, object detector, and text classification. Okay, mostly prediction will be used because for a business, we need to take certain decisions, okay, certain future decisions. And how will they be predicted? That prediction can be done if I am as a owner is very experienced and I know how the business runs, or the data that we take, right, the insights that we get from the data. So whether certain deal has to be done or not, yes or no, right, whether a person can be is suitable for a role, yes or no. So all these important decisions, which are nothing but ones and zeros, can be taken with this prediction model, right? Form processor basically does what it does is it extract text from images, and we don't necessarily need that, right? I mean, every application might not need extracting text from image, but every application which which is business oriented might need a prediction model, right? So we'll generally talk about prediction model. Then there are things like object detector and text classification. All these things are optional and very specific to an application, right? So application requires, then they will be used. So these are predefined model. And how are we using this predefined model? With the help of a feature called AI Builder, right? And we are just incorporating it in our application. We feed in our data, and there are models that take care of everything, right? So there are artificial intelligence or machine learning models that take care of these things. So we don't need to code the models. We don't need to incorporate, and we don't need things like the frameworks like scikit-learn or TensorFlow. We don't need that, right? That are already there incorporated with Microsoft, and there are the predictions can be made just by feeding in the data. And then there is security and administration. So you can see the first page, role-based access control. You can see there are a lot of fields that needs to be filled, right? So these actually take care. Sorry, I changed the PPT. Yeah, so these actually take care of what roles or what is there in a user hand. So you can see that security role basic user. I'm not sure if this is visible, but I'm just reading it out. Security role basic user. So here these are the things, right? Accounts, action card, activity, connection, data map, data import. So all these are actions, and with this, and these are roles, what we call accesses. So it is create access, read access, write access, delete access, append to, assign, and share. Right. So all these are accesses, and these are actions. So for a basic user, if we can see the connection for a category like connection, he is not able to create a connection, but he can read a connection. So this is how we define the access and policies for a particular user, and these will change. This dots will change based on the user. So this is role based access control, right? And there is second thing to it, that is data loss prevention. Right? So data loss prevention. How do we make sure that the data of the application is stored always, is secured always, and what happens if that is lost for some reason, right? For what happens if a mishap happens and there is a loss of data. So things like backups and everything are done with this data loss prevention policies. So that is somewhere also related to access, right? If a general user does not have access to make any changes to the database, he may or she may not be able to delete the database, right? So as simple as that. So these things like data loss policies come into picture, and is very strongly integrated with PowerApps. Okay, then there is case study of Heathrow Airport, which we talked about yesterday, so I'm not going into details. And the person was Samit Sen, right? So he was a former security worker who turned into an app maker, right? What did he work? What was the first application that he worked on? Converting actually converting the rule book into different languages as an application, so that it becomes accessible to the passengers, right? All right, so at this point I would finish the introduction of PowerApps, right? And I'm open to questions. If there are any questions, please, you can, I guess you can unmute and ask. Yes, Shahid. Shahid, you want to ask something? Your hand is raised. By the way, can you all unmute by yourself, or do I have to do that?
Hello, sir.
Okay,
Shahid
you
here.
can. Okay, go ahead.
Sir, there are three types of application: Canvas app, model driven app, and portal app.
Right.
And the portal app, it is there, it is externally facing website.
Hmm.
What about the Canvas and model driven app? They are not externally facing websites.
No, see, there is a difference between application and website. Okay, websites generally give you information. Applications where you interact. Right. So applications, you won't get information as a whole. You will be able to interact. Like, for example, for a business need, I create an application where I want to register new users. Okay, or I want to record all the what we call the imports that the business do. Right. For example, there is an import business, and I want to locate use that application for a person who's actually looking at the imports, right? So who is actually the main user of this application? The person who's looking at the imports,
Yeah.
right? Because he'll be in a better position to add all the fields, right? Import number, import ID, where is it coming from, where is it going? I guess this information is not there or not really relevant for user. Okay, what information do I want for user? What is this company? How does it work? What are the employees? What are the job description? What countries it has connections with, what are its employees, who are its employers, right? All this information needs to be open so that people can see and come, right? But a particular import and things like that is very specific to a particular task, right? Noting the imports and having a record of them. So what do you think? Who should use what? You cannot unmute. Yeah, can you unmute, Shahid? I've asked you to unmute.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, so you get a difference, right?
Yeah, got it partially, sir. For example, if we have some
Hmm.
application
Hmm.
and we want to provide a functionality to the user to search something from the
Right.
data that we have. So
Hmm.
we will build portal app or model driven app or Canvas.
It can be anything. What I'm saying is, generally portal you will use to display data, right? And apps are specific. Okay. Now you want users to query the database. You will create either of application. You can either create Canvas app or you can create model driven app so that the user can interact with the data and get the information. It's about functionality, right? So I can think about creating a portal app, okay, and create about certain pages on portal app and keep one page reserved for the form, for the inquiry,
Okay, sir.
right? So the user who wants to actually inquire can open the inquiry page of that portal and then connect with the database.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Right, so this application, that's what. So here we are not looking at an application that does everything. We're looking at applications that do small tasks, right? With that, what will happen, we will be able to distribute this application to relevant audience,
Yeah.
right? So that's what we're trying to do. So a person who's responsible for imports should have an application that takes care of import. Person who's responsible for human resource management should have access to, or I should have an application that takes care of human resource management,
Okay.
right? That's what we are planning to do. That's what the whole idea is. See, business need is specific, so application is specific. Application doesn't take care of each and everything.
So the normal app, other than the Power App, the apps or website we use, they have lots of functionalities. So the Canvas app is specific. The Power Apps are specific for a specific task. Am I right here?
That is the objective of having a power app. That is not the limitation, that is objective.
Okay.
Right. See, the how power platform starts, how this discussion starts. We are having a business. I want to leverage the business. I want to bring out insights. What do I do? Right. And I don't have coding background. So I have a business. and I want an application to look after that business. That's all. Okay, now portal app. I have a business. I want to portray that business as a very, a developing business, and I want audience to see it. I'll create a portal app, and I'll have one component of portal app taking inputs from audience, right? For example, it can be a recruitment thing, it can be application, it can be candidature, things like that, or it can be feedbacks from the users. So it's like creating components and making them work in harmony.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, one more thing
Right.
about Dataverse. It is a Dataverse as a bridge that, connectors. Connectors are bridge that connect the application to the Dataverse. So yesterday on learn.microsoft, there was two examples at Twitter and YouTube. They are also connectors.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, we use connector to connect two different things. Yeah, but here the example is YouTube that I'm not understanding.
See, YouTube, what you see for a YouTube, or what we see as a YouTube, is an application where I see for videos, right? That is one thing. That is one major thing that YouTube does. But it also has features that what we can say, that takes data, because see, YouTube is also taking care of certain data, right? Visitors, subscribers, and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So for example, my business creates a channel that has some component of videos that I want to showcase my certain business needs with the help of those videos. So YouTube is also, I mean, the visitors on YouTube for that channel is also giving me a data, right? So it can be used as a component that gives me data on how well this component, right? This part of showing videos to others is going well or not, right? And we talk about Twitter. So Twitter is not only the one that allows people to comment on certain things. Twitter has its own API. Right, so we talk about Twitter API. So you just read about it, Twitter API, what it does. It's not only what Twitter as we know.
Okay, sir.
All right.
I
so
think
there
it's
are
TweetPy or something, Twitter API.
That's what, yeah. So there are APIs that there is a Twitter API, which is a famous API. We look for, when we study APIs, we give that example of Twitter API. All right. So there are so many underlying features that these applications do. It's not only YouTube or Twitter. There are many. Okay. And all those are data driven. Right. So, I mean, there is a lot that can be discussed, but I mean, how that is relevant is what I'm thinking.
Okay, sir, got the point. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Saranya?
Good morning, sir. Yes. So, regarding the models, specifically the prediction model. So, in that, how do we select the model that we want to use? Like for prediction making, we can use decision tree, or we can use logistic regression. So, is there an option for to select the model?
Okay. How do you know that there is a decision tree and logistic model?
No, I'm asking, sir, like what kind of prediction model is being offered from Microsoft side to us? So do we like have an option to select the model that based for prediction, or is it like pre-built in the?
See, the thing is, as an audience, if I want to add some artificial intelligence component, I'm working on a Power App. I don't know how to code, right? I don't have idea of what artificial intelligence is. I don't know what models are.
Okay.
Right. So what will happen? I'll incorporate model, and Microsoft will take care.
Okay. So I just have to feed the data.
You just have to feed the data.
Okay. So whatever model Microsoft is giving us, we are only stuck with that.
Yeah, you can say that.
Oh,
okay. But the thing is, see, we are talking about 600 data connectors. Okay.
Yeah.
Now this is not only connectors that deals with data. This is also talking about things like AI builder. Okay. An AI builder by itself has its connection with third party machine learning models, right? So
Yeah.
Microsoft, I'm not sure about this, but Microsoft, since we're talking about 600 connectors, Microsoft might have a way to incorporate the best suited model for the data.
Okay. Okay.
We don't need to worry about what that suitable model is,
Hmm.
right? As the client side, as the user side, I don't need to worry about that. That is taken care of by Microsoft.
Okay, sir.
Right now,
Yeah.
if user is not really what we call, if user is not really acquainted with things like these models that you mentioned, right?
Yes,
What
sir.
will that happen? There will be a basic application created. Now, what is the second stage? Scaling of that application with experienced developers,
Okay.
right? So what they will do, then they will apply probably not the model that was default, but the model that is more suitable.
Most effective. Okay, sir. So it's like basically creating a baseline. So it will help in creating a baseline for our work.
Right. Yeah. So we are at the at the nascent stage of PowerApps where we are acting as nascent users. We don't know what coding is, but I want application that does the job for me.
Okay, sir.
Right. So that is the idea.
Yes, sir.
In about the details, how that models are incorporated, I'm not really sure. Probably I can look for it and let you know
Yes, sir.
on the
So that
community.
okay, sir. And so another thing is that there's apps that we were talking about the website, the portal view, and the Canvas app on the model based app.
Hmm.
So are these apps connected? Specifically, what I mean to say is, are the portals connected to any of those model apps? So because the portal is just displaying the data, and
Hmm.
the model apps is where we are interacting with the data. So naturally, we want our whatever we are interacting with the data, we want the data to be like shown on the portal. So are these apps connected to the portal, or are they have to be
No,
separately made?
these, see, you can individually create them and connect them to same database. That is one
Okay,
thing. Okay. Now,
okay,
portals does not mean only representation of data, although it is the major objective of it.
okay.
Right. So we can have that functionality, as I said, right? So
Yeah,
the previous student who had asked me about why, I mean, how is portal different? Or can we not interact with the portal? So what did I say? I said that there can be multiple pages. Maximum of those pages can give information, but there can be one page which interacts with the user.
okay,
Okay, so that functionality can be done underlying.
okay.
Okay, we just need to keep in mind what is the objective of creating a particular application.
Yes, got
If
it.
it is portal, I don't look at having lot of functionality. There will be functionality. There will be
Yes, sir.
functions or business rules that change my data according to the changes in database. Definitely. But what is the difference between website and application if there is a lot of interaction involved?
Yeah.
Right. So that is the thing we have to keep in mind. If I want to create, let's say I want uh, users to completely interact with the application, make use of every functions that I've created, right? Then I would rather go for model driven app. Okay. Why? Because model driven apps are responsive. So I
More
don't really
interactive.
worry
Yeah.
about the screen size or the desktop or platform.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Power Apps are anyway platform independent, right? So we are creating it on its own dashboard. It is working on Microsoft environment. So it is really not a concern for me that whether I'm using some particular platform, but it's only responsiveness that matters, right? So if I want to create an application that is accessible to everyone, not only from their system, but also from their mobile phones, I would want the components of application to settle by themselves. Now, do I do that with a responsive web app?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and
Got it, sir.
got it, right? Yeah.
And- Yes, sir. And sir, another question is that what is the price of running these power apps in a business setting?
Price of running this power apps.
Well,
Actually,
like what is
uh,
what is it?
I need to go through the subscription packages. I haven't gone through that. I don't know. But
So this
again, that see, this is a statistical information. Again, I'll
Yeah.
let you know in community.
So there's a subscription. So it's a subscription-based model. So whenever I'm running these apps, these are all subscription-based.
Yeah, because the things that you're using, for example, you will need PowerApps as an application to work with, right? That has a
Yes, sir.
subscription,
Okay.
right? You need cloud databases from Microsoft and other connect with the help of other connectors, the other databases. So they by themselves have subscription, right? So that basic investment is definitely there, but I'm sure it is less than the conventional applications because the developers have their cost.
Okay, sir.
Right here, we are not really concerned with the development. We're concerned with resources.
Yes, I got it, sir. And actually, so is PowerApps only useful only for like the initial stage of a business, or like as the business grows, should we like move into hiring developers to build the app, build the models, or can we like like a business as it grows, it can still stay using using the PowerApps?
Yeah, so see, the Power Apps will definitely grow by itself. That's what we're talking about scaling. So the scalability is very good in Power Apps. See, so what did we talk about models? Initially, the model was default, probably was not giving those insights or giving insights which were perfect, right? But how did we scale it? By using specific model. And who did that? A learned developer.
Yeah.
Right. So developers coming in will only work in Power Apps, and then they efficiently improvise the Power App itself. Not it's not that we are shifting from no code to code based applications.
So what what are the situations when we want to use a Power App and when we want to go to like traditional way of development?
Okay, so it's like see, when a business is very good, right? It is completely profitable. They have a lot of money. They don't really worry about uh, the investment. So what they can do is they can directly hire engineers and developers. They make them understand the problem statement and ask them to work on application. They don't intervene, right? So very large scale, very high level businesses from the top, they don't really require Power App at very basic stage. Okay, but I'm talking about let's talk about a business that will anyway sometime it will grow, but at this point there are multiple business issues that it needs to take care of, right? And that multiple business issues, there will be a person or a group of person who are well acquainted with the situation and how to solve it, right? They know the
Yes.
problem, they know the solution.
Yes.
They just don't know how they convert it into apps so that it becomes
Apps.
simpler for everyone uh, to assess the situation and take decisions on that, right?
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
So how will they work? Can they hire developers for every small stage of application, for every small problem statement? No,
Hmm.
right? Because again, it will be imposing on them, right?
Yeah, not
Hiring
possible.
developers, explaining them the problem statement, and the problem statement is something which is a part of or a part of a set of other problem statements, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir.
So here we want the frontline workers of that particular small piece of problem to actually use their insights, their experience, and create application with no code.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Got. Yeah.
right, once this application is growing, it is helping them in some way, can they improve it?
Yeah. Then they will go for the developers.
Then they will go for the developers. So it is
Okay.
like this is like efficient scaling of a Power App,
All right. Okay.
right? Directly hiring developers would not have been an efficient scaling because they would then have to very specifically state the problem statement, right? So the developers will know the problem statement but they don't know how to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
So then that it would have been then there I guess then they would have set a team which involves people from the frontline workers and people from developers. So this, this group that was formed will actually take care of application. But isn't that reducing the workforce?
Yes, sir.
right? Because some app workers who are actually working on the problem are now working with the application.
App development teams, yes.
Hmm.
Got it, sir. Got the difference, sir. Yeah. Got the situation.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sharath?
Hey, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
So a couple questions. First one, can you please go to slide 9, the security and administration? So in here you talked about, we can manage who gets to see what, or who gets, what kind of roles. So is it universal within the tenant? Or let's say there is 10,000 users in the tenant and there is like 10 or 20 different PowerApps targeting silos of users. So is it universal or to a particular app?
No. So what happens is within the tenant, you can create environments.
Okay.
Okay. So the user of that environment, so the resources will be distributed among the environment. Okay.
So
although it is a part of tenant, but then this boundary comes with the environment. So you can create multiple environments in a tenant. For example, we also saw a slide which shows 3 different environments, right? Development environment,
Testing.
deployment, production,
Correct.
something like that. So these environments will take care of what kind of people will work and what will be the access. That can be done.
Okay. So one dev environment can have multiple apps also. That's also possible.
Yes, that is possible.
Okay. So got it. So we'll divide the tenant into environments, and then all the apps will go through like, okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, the same tenant.
Right. And so our second question is, normally within an enterprise, let's say there is an Azure pipeline, right? There is all the kind of traditional apps are going via Azure CI/CD pipeline, and there will be all this code quality, the DAST, SAST, or IAST tools integrated within to that pipeline. That's how normally everything goes, right?
Right.
So when an enterprise onboard a Power App, how will that fit into that setting?
Okay.
Or we don't
Onboarding
need to
and
do it?
onboarding a Power App.
Correct.
Okay. Power App, I can call it as IaaS, right? It is an infrastructure as a service.
Okay.
Okay. So we are Power Apps is software as a service because we're creating application with the software.
Right.
Okay. But an application created through Power Platform will have multiple components involved, connectors involved, databases involved. So
Right.
therefore, I would call it as an infrastructure as a service.
Oh, sir, I'm sorry to cut you. I think I misspoke. What I meant is I asked SaaS like Nexus IQ, SonarQube, the code quality tools that's integrated into your CI/CD pipeline. I was not talking about software as a service or that portion of it. I was thinking about the DevSecOps. Like if you have a DevSecOps pipeline within your Azure pipeline, you'll have, let's say, Nexus IQ. Or HCL app scan, that will check for vulnerabilities in the code and all that, right? So that's how you deploy your traditional apps. So when we onboard a Power App, do we need to put that into the Azure? Like, should it go via?
No, I don't think that will go into the same pipeline. Why? Because see, the applications that are created from a software-based company are start from scratch, and they are dealing a specific problem, right? And they follow the same path, right? Development, testing, production.
Right.
Okay, so they start with same group of developers, they come to the same group of testers, and they go to the same audience in the production.
Right.
Okay, so that is a different pipeline. What is Power App used for? The Power App is not created by developers, so it is not a product of software company. It is a product of business.
Sorry.
Right, so it is the other way around. It is coming from business, and developers, if hired, are only troubleshooting it, fine-tuning it.
Got it.
Right. So I don't think that is a different pipeline. See, because we are talking about traditional software. Traditional software have a so for example, we talk about Microsoft Office. So Microsoft Office focused on same set of people, right? Business people who would use these products like Word and Microsoft, whatever it is, for their business needs. Okay. And while creating these applications, initial stages, they did not have what exactly business people need. So that it was common to all the businesses, right? Why was it common? Because the same set of developers created it. It was tested with certain number of people with certain test cases, and then it was deployed, right?
Right.
And this is the case with every other application, code based. Okay, so here the objectives of an application, what things it will deal with is set up by developers. But in Power Apps, what will happen? The objective will be set by business itself. They'll work on it, create it to some extent, see whether it is working or not, whether it is helping them automate their workflows. Okay, then they will look for improvements, and then probably they will come with to the developers. So it is a completely different pathway, and that too flowing in the opposite direction.
So then that means we may not need to even think about code repo, versioning, because there is no code or low code, right? Is that also the fact?
We can say that. We can say
Okay.
that this question is very application specific, right?
Yeah.
So if the application is really simple, dealing with very basic business issue, why do we need to do all these things?
Yeah, yeah, right. Got it. Okay, so one final question, sir. The document that you're displaying, it will be shared with us, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Sharanya again.
Yes, sir. Like Sharad pointed out, sir. Like, is there a way to have a version control in this Power Apps?
Yeah, so basically what I would say is when we create Power Apps, what happens is every stage when the application is created, you get to save it so that it can be used, share it. So that same version of application is used, but then there is also something called as publish. Okay, so as soon as you publish, the application with the functionality existing in the application will be available to the audience. Okay, now you make some changes. Unless you publish, the application that you're making changes in the developmental stage, but the application that is being used is the previous published version.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we are kind of having some version control.
Okay, sir. So let's say I published my app and then I decide to make some changes, and I again publish it. So does the content of my previous published app get lost, or is it stored in somewhere in the cloud?
You can, I guess you can do both. You can either create a different instance of the same app and publish the other one.
Okay.
Right. So it is about again the environment. Within environment, you'll set up all these things. Okay, a different environment which can have the same version of that application but advanced. All right. Or you can do, or what you can decide on is overwrite the application. So publishing one by one, I mean multiple times will overwrite the functionality.
Yeah.
So that is a decision that we can take.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Got it, sir.
Okay, so there are as such no technical questions on the chat. Okay, fine. So I'll move forward now. As I said, this is talking about how to build Canvas app. Okay, so we'll go to the lab part now. Let me share that thing. Okay, can you see this? Can you see my screen? Okay, you can see the screen. All right, so there are two labs associated with this course. Okay, one of it is not actually a lab; it is just a GitHub repository which is having the let me launch this. Yeah, so this is having the resources that we might use in this application, right? So there is this thing called as all files. So this will have the files that we'll be using. Mostly we'll be using only one here. Okay, we can go ahead and later probably in the business insights to see the other files, but at this in this session we'll be using this visits.xlxs, right? So this is nothing but a GitHub repository where all the files are stored. Okay, and the second one is the actual lab. So I'll just launch it. It will be launching in the new tab. Okay, it will take some time. Sorry for the background noise. There's some song going on. I'm not sure if you can hear it. If you cannot, it is really good. Yeah, so to access the lab, you can go to this site. Learn on demand, learnondemand.net. Share this. Okay, so you have to go to this site and sign in with your training. You can either do it now, you can do it later. So what is happening here? The virtual machine is setting up, right? So all the labs that we'll be doing will be happening in a virtual machine. Training key. You will get the training key. All right. So you can see admin desktop is getting booted up, right? So this is the interface of this virtual machine. Once. Yes, you'll have to, everyone have to, all the students will have to sign in with their training key. Okay, so you can see the desktop here. You just try to expand it. Yeah. Okay, and this is the instruction that I was talking about, right? So if you, we will word by word follow this instruction to actually create the Canvas app and model driven app. Okay. So the initial thing that we have to look at is sign in with admin, which was happening initially. So I don't need to worry about it. But what you need to do that is you click on this, right? Commands, then go control plus alter plus delete. So it will open the switch user tab, right? To do this, you will go to switch user tab. Okay, switch user and then sign in as an admin. What are the credentials? How do we find the credentials? It is there in the resources tab here. Okay, so resources tab. So you can, this is what is the username of admin and this is the password. Okay, so all the resources, meaning all the credentials will be available here. Okay, and instructions are here. The second thing that we need to do is download the files, right? So what are the files that we are downloading? The all files folder that I just showed in the GitHub repository, right? So once this is downloaded, you'll note that a folder will appear here. Right? So once this is downloaded, you see this is all files, right? So if I open this, so this download has actually happened on virtual machine, not in my machine, right? So everything will be happening on the virtual machine. So you see this files, and we'll be requiring this visits.xlxs. So let us now go through the question statement. Okay, I hope this is visible. I'll just zoom it a bit. Okay. So what is the scenario here? There is a college named Bellows College, which is an educational organization with multiple buildings on the campus. Campus visitors are currently recorded in paper journals. So we are now, the records are done on papers, right? So it is a pen and paper thing. The information is not captured consistently and there are no means to collect and analyze data about the visits across the entire campus. Okay, so it is inconsistent information. What is the problem with the inconsistent information? You might not get the record for a particular user. One thing. Secondly, it becomes tough to, if this is not recorded, right? If the records are not there, if this is not archived, we won't be able to figure out, or we won't be able to bring out insights from this data, right? So it is a good practice where in any business scenario that you store the data, and that is what we are trying to do, right? So there is no means to analyze it, and there is no idea of who is visiting the campus and what department he or she is going, right? So the campus administration would like to modernize their visitor registration system where access to the building is controlled by security personnel and all visits are required to be pre-registered and recorded by their host. So basically what I want to do is register for a visit and then visit, okay, rather than directly going and writing my name and details on the paper and visiting. Okay. So this is what we are trying to create. But before going directly to the application, we need to look at two things. One is setting up environment, and second is setting up models or database. Right, which is probably a way in any application, right? Whether it is PowerApps or whether it is conventional application. What do? We first set up the environment. For example, if I'm creating an application on Python, I would create a directory, mark it as a project, make a virtual environment, install all the libraries, and then start working on it, right? That is one way. Second thing is, so similarly, we'll be setting up environment in Power Platform interface with the help of Microsoft 365. Okay, so the credentials which I was talking about are here, right? So the credentials for Microsoft 365 are here and the password is here. Okay, and the second thing that I would do is prepare the schema, right? The models in the database and schema, and on what type of data they'll store, and what are the tables, what are the records that we are storing, what are the columns, right? So this design of database is something that should happen beforehand. All right, then we'll go on with creating the table. Okay, so first we'll start off with setting up, which is setting up the environment. All right, so I'll open the PowerApps platform Microsoft. This will open in, this will open in the edge of virtual machine. All right, do not now, we'll sign in, we'll do the trial period. Okay, so this is asking for the credentials, right? So you won't fill your online degree credentials or study credentials, you'll fill this credentials here. Okay, and one good thing this interface provides is you click on T and everything will be written. Okay, just have to click here and the text here gets filled or gets populated on wherever the cursor is. Okay, so I'll sign up with the free trial. No, you don't need to, you just understand the thing, you can do it later. And if you see what I'm doing is following the steps carefully, that is what you have to do, right? Nothing else. And enter password. See, the cursor is here. I click on password and it will be auto populated. Okay, so I'll sign in. Okay, I'll keep myself signed in. So I'll just click on yes. Let's go back to instructions. So here we are, right? Select, let us mark. Just keep on a little bit. So make.powerapps.com is actually the interface of PowerApps. Okay, the PowerApps dashboard. Okay, so you can see home, create, learn, tables, flows, solutions, and here you will see ask a virtual agent. So this will incorporate the AI part. Okay, so see the default environment is Contoso. We don't know what this is, but we'll create our own environment. I guess I have one. Let me see. Yeah, this one, right? So I've created one. Let me delete this because we'll be doing everything from the scratch. So let me go to, okay, let me open that interface first. All right, so we are done here. We have logged in. Now what we'll do is we'll go to admin. So this is what I was talking about. Admin takes care of environment and policies, access controls, everything. So get started. So it gives you the familiarity of this interface, right? So just keep clicking on next here. Done. All right, so you see here policies, admin centers, help and support, resources, billings, right, and environments. Click on environments. This talks for help, so we close this. Okay, so let me delete this environment because I want to do it from the scratch. PQ. Okay. Okay, so the delete process is being run. So we'll have to wait for a minute, probably. Let us go through the steps. Okay, so this is what we did, right? So in the select environment, we have to click on new, right? So I'll try to click on new. Let me see if it allows it. let's see, because the what happens is here only one environment is allowed, one practice environment is allowed on the trial period, right? So we have registered for trial periods, only one environment will be allowed. Okay, so if this is not deleted, it won't allow me. I'll just try. Okay, so what we are doing here, we are trying to create an environment, and it gives you the format on what it should be, right? My initials space practice, right? So I'll just write PL just as a representation of course and write practice. Okay, the type should be trial, right? Not the trial subscription based, right? So it says that the type select trial, do not select trial subscription based option. All right, and then we'll also create a database for this environment. Okay, go to next. So if it creates, it's created. Yeah. So we see that there is this environment EL practice. What's next? Okay, so we're done with creating the, sorry, how do I move this? Yeah. We're done with creating the environment. So the next step is creating the database, right? So here let's talk about the modeling of what models will be there. First three paragraphs are nothing but the same question statement, right? I'll come to this part. So in this lab, you will access your environment, create a Microsoft Dataverse database. You will also create a data model to support the following requirements. Okay, what are the requirements? Track information for scheduled campus visits, record basic information to identify and track the visitors, schedule, record, and manage visits. Okay, and then we'll import the data. So basically what we are trying to do, first we are trying to create the model, okay, create a table, and then import the data. Three things which are, oh, I changed. Three things that is required for creating any application, right? Okay. Now, if you see this data model document, this is basically there to give you the models and entity relationship. Okay, so if you see here, so what are we doing? We are creating three tables. Okay, one is the contact table, visit table, and building table. Okay, the primary key is contact ID, building ID, and visit ID. Okay, and then there are sorry, then there are other things like owner, host, right? Visit code, subject, schedule start, schedule end. So like this will happen when you register, and this actual start and actual end will happen when you actually visit and end your visit. Okay. So apart from this contact ID and building ID will be foreign key. Okay. And what are the relationships we are trying to define? It is one to many, right? One to many here, one to many here. Okay. It is not mandatory one, so they can have zero also, both in either side. Okay. So this is the entity relationship diagram, which gives you the understanding of what are the tables there. Okay. So we will stop it here. We'll go back to here. No, the interface, right? Okay. Now we'll start with creating the table. Okay. So we'll select the environment. The visit table will contain information, right? So we talked about that. And so we'll go back to our apps. Okay. We'll go to tables. Now here, if we see, there is PQ environment, right? We need to change it to, okay, it's still not updated. Wait, there is a reason it is saying something went wrong. Reload this. Yeah, so this is PL practice now. Now it is updated, and now we are in PL practice. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll go to tables. So you can see that there are multiple tables already created, right? So these tables are basically already there in the database, and I can just use one if this table is related to the business need that I'm doing, right? I can have accounts, address, appointments, all these things are there. But what we are trying to do is create a new table whose name is visit, right? Go back to this, right? Now, how do I put this visit here? Just click on this T and it will take the name. Okay, display name. Okay, then we will click on, is there any advanced option thing? No, so we'll click on save. All right. Now that the table is created, we will start creating the columns. So if we click on columns, we'll see that there are again certain columns that are already there. Okay. Columns. Now we will go to this visit. This is the table that we created, right? Okay. Yeah. Cancel. Now what we'll do, we'll add a new column. Okay. And what do? We add this column and set the schema with this 3 to 4 things given here, right? So what are the 5 columns that we're going to create? Schedule start, schedule end, actual start, actual end, code, and visitor lookup, right? So I will start with schedule start. Okay, so I'll just click on this schedule start, and here in the data type, it is date and time, right? In behavior, it is not the behavior, sorry. In the required, it is business required. Okay, and in the advanced option, we have to set time zone to time zone independent. Why am I doing this? Because in here, if I see this, right, we use time zone independent behavior to record date and time information, because time of a visit is always local to the location, right? So it doesn't matter. It's when I change the location, the time will be set according to that. Okay, so I'll just leave it as is, and then I'll save it. Similarly, I'll create the second column, that is schedule end. So I'll click on schedule end, take the name. Similarly, it will have date and time, and required as business required. In advanced option, this needs to be the user local needs to be changed to time zone independent, and then save it. Okay, so like this, we'll keep on creating columns. There are around 6 columns. Then we'll have actual start. Okay, actual start, date and time. Okay, required, it is optional only. In advanced option, let's change it to time zone independent. Time zone independent. Save it. Okay, another column, actual end. Right. Actual end, data type, date and time. It is again optional. Go back to advanced option and set it to time zone independent, and then save it. Okay, another column is code. So select code. Okay, the data type is auto number, not date and time here. So select auto number. Okay, and in auto number type, it is date prefixed number. Okay, and then again in advanced, do we need to do anything? No. In visitor ID, okay, in advanced option, there is something called as visitor ID. Okay, so this visitor, so looking of which table? Auto number. Okay, don't need to do anything with advanced option. I was wrongly referring to this table. Data prefix number for auto number is done, and then we have to save it. That's all. Okay, and then we'll create one more and the last column, that is visitor lookup. Visitor, the type is lookup. Okay, then in advanced option, visitor ID. It's visitor in the relationship name. Instead of this, I'll put this. Okay, CRF 24 underscore visitor ID. It's done, right? What is wrong? Not allowing me to save. Let me check. So, okay, in contact. So one more thing that I did not set. Search lookup table, data type, related table. Here's the related table. This needs to be sent to contact. Right? Because contact table is already existing, so we're not creating that. Now we can save it. Okay, so while it is getting saved, let us talk about importing the data. Right? So I talked about this visits.xlxs, right? So this is an Excel file which I'll be importing from my local machine, which is here, right? So how do I do that? So for that, I'll go back to our PowerApps. Okay, and then we will click on application, this one, right? So this talks about other connectors. So these are all connectors, right? And then I click on OneDrive. So my OneDrive is already set up, I guess. So it should not ask me to load, but let's see. Yeah, so already set up. What happens is, if you're doing it for the first time, what you need to do is you write OneDrive, then it will tell you this thing here, right? Click on your drive is ready. So that will appear. That click on, then this same page will appear. Okay, then what I'll do, I'll upload. We'll upload files. Okay, what are the files we're uploading? We'll go from on desktop, all files, and visits, right? So we'll open this. Okay, so that is getting uploaded. All right, now we'll create the data flow in the application. So I'll go back to PowerApps. Okay, here I'll go to, I'll change the thing, right? And then this is Dataverse itself. Then what I'll do is select tables. So we're in tables. Okay, and then we'll locate the visit table that we created. So this is the visit table. Okay, and here this is import data. So we'll import and click on import data. Okay, then it will ask you what type of file it is. Okay, so what type of file it was? Excel, right? So I'll click on Excel workbook, and in the files tooling, open browse OneDrive. Okay, this is the the original account that we have signed in with. Okay, browse OneDrive, and this is what we want to do. Select. Right, once that is done, we'll go to nothing else, right? Yeah, so choose data, next, done. Okay, now what we'll do? So here, now we are trying to map data, right? So there are columns that we have created in visits table, and there are already columns in the visits XLXS file, right? So we'll map those columns with the actually created columns in our table so that it takes only that data, right? So what we are doing here, mapping the data. So we'll click on this visits. This is actually the Excel file. This is the actual Excel file. Go to next. Next. Okay, so now we will talk about column mapping. So we'll go to load the existing table. What is the existing table? Visit, right? And destination table we will select from here. So it is something like this, right? CR and XXX. So it is CR. This one, CRF24 underscore visit. Okay, so these are the destination column because these are already there in the table, right? Now we need to map the actual columns from the file. So these are the actual columns. Okay, so I'll map like this, actual end to actual, like this will actual start, code, name, schedule end, and schedule start. Okay, go to next. Refresh manually, that is okay, and then we'll go to publish. Okay, now we'll verify the data. How to do that? We have opened the same thing, right? And we are in the visit table. Then we'll go in the columns. Now these are already there. Wait, visit table. Yeah. So here, if we see the data is imported, let us check. Primary, it is only name. we want actual end, actual start, code, and okay, let's see this. These are rows. Let me check. Okay, it takes time. All right, no issues. After the data has been imported, use the navigation at the left of the screen to select visit table. Again, verify that you imported, see the imported data under visit, columns, and data section. Columns and data section. Yeah, so it's the columns and data section. Okay, let's reload this. Okay, so the data is already there. All right, so this is the data name, actual and actual start. I can just add or keep on adding the columns that I've created. All right, so now the environment is set up, the database is set up. Now we'll move on to creating the Canvas application. Okay, so how to build Canvas app? Okay, this thing remains same, the question statement. And what are the high level things that we need to do? We need to create Canvas app and data, take the data from the visit table, right? And configure how visits are shown on the browse screen, meaning changing some labels here and there, and some basic changing in the application, and then test the application, how it works. Okay. So now I'll go back to this app, all right? And then we will go to apps. We are in the same environment. We'll go to home, and on the left side, home icon on the left side of the screen under the start from section, select Dataverse. All right, so what we need to do is we go to home, and then we'll create Dataverse. Select Dataverse. Okay, and then here we have to create new connection. So how do you do that? You go to new connection, and what are we working with? Dataverse. So use Microsoft Dataverse, right? Create. Okay, log in with the administrator, give the access and everything. Then what is the table that I want to visit? Or select visits table. Okay, now we'll see the view of or the dashboard of a PowerApps, where there are tools and the application thing. Okay, I'll just keep it. What it says, do not show me again, because this keeps on coming, this keeps on popping up after every change, right? So I'll just do this, and well, as you see this, the data has been retrieved and it has taken some predefined names, right? So how can I test this application? So if I click on this, so you can see that the element can be dragged and extended and something like that. So if I want to do this with the code, I'll have to write a lot of HTML for this, right? But this is how these are component based. And now how I can test my application, I just go and click on this play button. I can see this how this application will work, right? So I can just write on search Robert, let's say. Right, so you can see that the search is getting modified and everything, right? And if you go back to this, okay, we'll click on any of the details and we'll see that when it is created, the other information, and then also we can go back and see the edit screen, right? So here we can edit this particular name. All right, how can I see this? So okay, so you see this browse screen 1, which is nothing but the screen. Okay, let me click on browse screen 1. Yeah, so browse screen 1 is this screen. Okay, what is the gallery? What does gallery shows? Gallery shows all the information that is there in the table. So this is basically gallery. Okay, rectangle meaning all the smaller things that I'm adding, right? Search icon, it is highlighting that. Text, it is highlighting that. New icon. So I can I can name this, right? I can edit the name from here so that it becomes easy for me. And how these things work because of some functions associated, right? So you see this function written here, and which is very similar to Excel, right? Then I go to detail screen, I see this, right? So in the delete button, I can see what is actually being shown as a function, right? So this is the function that actually deletes. All right, so I don't need to write the code, I need to write the function. Okay, let's see. So we saw the preview. Now we'll modify and certain things, right? So what I'll do is, the first thing that it says is, you go to detail screen or browse screen. The first thing is, okay, we'll see the visits table, right? So we are going to, let's say, browse screen one. Okay, and in the visits, I want to change this visits to Bellows College visits, right? So here it is appearing, right? Visits. I can change this text to Bellows College visits. Visits. Okay. So if I do this and I click here, the thing will be changed, right? I can change the font size. Click the same page, reduce the font size. Let's say 25. Come back, so it will be visible, right? So the changes that you do will be directly visible, and you don't need to write the code for that. That's the thing. Okay. Now we'll go to detail screen one. Detail screen one, it says visits that you need to change to visit details, right? So this visit, I click here, it will be visit details. Okay. So visit details. Similarly, edit screen. This needs to click on this, change this to edit details, right? So if I click this and click it on the blank space, it will take the changes, right? So these are the things that, these are the, you know, what we call UI related things that we did. Okay, we can change the theme also. It's talking about theme. So there is let me just minimize this function. Okay, so there's something called as themes. Okay, so you can see there are multiple themes. Blue one is taken. Let us put coral and click here, so it will take the coral theme. Okay, I can test the application anytime. So this is how it appears, right? Okay, testing is done. Now what are the challenges? Here we can see that there is entries from the Bellows visits, right? So the entries are coming, but what we want to actually add, we need to add actual start, actual end, right? Code is there, schedule start, because that is what we were trying to actually note with the help of this application, right? So that we'll try to do in the next lab. Okay, now these things that we are doing, right? Actual start, actual end, where these words come from? These actually words are coming from the database, right? The table that we have created. Okay, the data incorporation is okay, but it just took the data and displayed it. That is one thing. But how do you manage, or how do you manipulate your screen with respect to the data that you want to show and that is there in the database? So that's why we call these applications model driven. Okay, they are largely dependent on what type of data it is connected to. Okay, so let us stop it here for now and go back to some slides. Okay, I hope you can see the slides. All right, so these are the basic components that we generally associate with, right? The basic elements, that is the PowerApp Studio, the thing that we were working on, right? App format. So whenever we create a Canvas app, I'll show you. Go back to the lab. Okay, we'll go back to the lab. Let's close this. Okay, now see, you see this option of new screen, right? So when I click on new screen, it shows me layout. It is a blank layout. That is the reason we're calling it Canvas app. Okay, so by default it will take a mobile one, but if you see here in templates, it is having some predefined templates. Okay, and then we can also go to the tablet part. Okay, so in the templates, I can see, okay, if I want to create a form, if I want to create a tutorial, or if I want to create email, which is having this interface. Okay, so it will have some predefined structures already there, which I can modify and personalize according to my needs, right? So that is how templates are helpful. But if I'm very good with the tools, I know how they work, what are the functionalities, what are the things, that what are the limitations. If I know that, I can just create a blank and create the entire thing according to my way, right? So this is what we mean by building a canvas app. Okay, and if you see this, at the time of selecting layout, you are representing what screen size you're working for. So if I go to templates and I go to this landscape print, I'm looking for a tablet application, and it won't change. Everything will happen in the same interface only, right? So that is canvas app. Okay, let's go back. All right, so this is App Studio and the size, right? Then galleries. So galleries are basically, they fetch the data from database and represent on the layout whatever we have selected, right? So it does that. Forms, they display specific details of a particular entry shown from by the gallery, right? And then there are input controls, right? So the forms in conventional application development is nothing but all this text inputs, button, drop down, right? But the forms here is nothing but the display details, right? How certain things will appear, but that is taken care of by this input control, right? So your input control is text inputs, buttons, drop downs, toggles, right? And then what else do we have? Text area, we have file upload, right? Those things are there. Intelligent controls, rich controls for advanced operation. What can these rich controls be? Barcode scanning, right? This is something that I cannot do with input controls, right? Media, if I want to upload a picture or enable the application to use my camera and show screens, right? That is something that is intelligent control, that we call as an intelligent control. Apart from that, what can there be? Okay, I'm not remembering that, but these two things, right? One is barcode scanning and media. All these things comes under intelligent controls. And function I mentioned, right? So functions basically bind the controls from the database, takes the data, manipulates it, and shows it on the view. These are the basic elements. Okay, these are the things that we have seen, templates and everything. This is how the interface looks, right? Forms. Control. So you see control buttons, radio buttons, list. Okay, intelligent controls will have, right, image, AI builder, barcode scanning, functions, right? So functions, if you see this, right, what I was mentioning while I was explaining the previous slides, I said there are two inputs and I want to see the output in the third input, right? So what I'll do, input 1 plus input 2. So this is the function. Every time I change this number, this numbers will change. That is what we mean by. So we are binding two data and showing it on the display, right? So that is what functions do. Okay, and this is how we created Canvas app. Okay, then there is share app, which we'll do. We'll see at some time later. Next, we'll go to model driven app. So model driven app basically are something that works with data, and they are very focused on data. They are specific to that data, right? So we are designing a table, designing the schema, and then when retrieving the data, when we retrieve that data from the table and schema and display it on the screen, we can decide what needs to be displayed and how it will fetch data from the database and show, right? Yeah, so these are the things that are there. I mean, basically what I've been talking about from last couple of hours, right? Data, user interface, logic, and visualization is something that we'll see later. Okay, so what we will be doing in the exercises, we'll be creating a model driven app. We'll add the component, we'll create a form in the sense detail entry, and we'll be able to edit that entry. Okay, and then later publish the app. So publish is something that you can do at every stage of application, right? All right, I'll now move back to the interface. Okay, so this application was connected to data, that is okay, but we could not govern what needs to be shown on the table or on the screen, right, on the interface. But in the model driven data model driven app, what we'll do is we'll be able to select what needs to be shown on the screen. Okay, so let me go to that. Okay, this is the screen. Now we'll move ahead. Right, so we'll be working on views, right, what needs to be shown, and forms, how it should be shown. Okay, so I'll go to the same thing. Where will I go? I'll go back. Okay, let me save the changes. You can save the changes from here, right? So changes can be saved from here. You can, let's say, name anything. App 01. Okay, let's say visits app. Okay, now if you see more, when I click on icon, this icon gets highlighted. Now I can decide what can be the position, right? So if I can even drag it and the position will change accordingly, right? So if you see this, right? So position will change accordingly. I don't need to worry about those things, right? What will be the layout? How it should be? What is the type of that button? If I click on this, what should happen? So we are setting it as an as a toggle button. So it is probably a type of toggle. And basically, what we are trying to do is delete. So auto disable on select, which means if I delete, it will disable by itself. These things are defined, and these are actually happening by some functionalities. We don't need to do anything as a code. Okay, let me go back. Save. All right. So here I can go back to the this is the home screen. Here I can select my environment. I just need to make sure that we are working in the same environment, right? What I'll do is in the dataverse, this is actually dataverse. We'll open table. Okay, and then we'll be opening the visit table. This is the visit table. Okay, and then I can see data experiences, right? So from that, I'll click on forms. Okay, and then we will actually working on main form. Okay, so this is how I create a form where I will be taking all the inputs. Just give me a minute. Yeah, all right. So when I created a form, it took some basic information, right? The actually owner of this form and the name. Okay, so probably it is not visible. I'll show you this. All right. So you see the name owner by itself, it took mod administrator, right? And then there's certain related things that I can add, and then there are general things. Okay. Now, what are the things that I want to fill? Right? What are the things that I want to fill? So what I can do is these are the things that are there, which are there in the table. Okay. What are the things that I want to fill? So I can see here, first is the visitor. I can either click on it. So when I click on it, it goes from there and it appears here, right? Either I can click on it or I can drag and drop it. So next is schedule start. So I can just drag it and drop it here. Okay, it will appear. Schedule end. Then actual start. And actual end. All right. So these are the things that I've added. Note this, there is star mark, right? Why? Because we had set, while creating these fields in the table, we had set schedule start and schedule end as business required, right? While actual start and actual end were optional. Okay, then we'll drag the code in the form header, it says, right? So we'll drag the code in the form header and it will appear here, right? So it is actually a view only thing. It will appear in the top right. Okay, so I'll just click here. Let me shift this here. Click here, and here in the label, I'll just mark it as read only. Not the label, the type it is. I'll just mark it as read only. Okay. Okay. And what's next? The owner field in the properties panel, change the label to host. Okay, so basically we are talking about visits, right? Bellows College visits. So who the host is, or who is actually taking care of this visits? The Bellows College. So that instead of writing the owner, we'll change it to host. Just put it here. Okay, so let me move it here, drag it, and in the owner, if I select this, so this is selected, right? So in the label of owner, let us change it to host. Okay, for the changes to appear, this should come here. Name cannot be empty, right? Okay, anyway. All right. So done. Once this is done, this is my form. This I'll be taking whenever I create a new visit, right? Whenever I create a new visit, I'll be taking this. Okay, let me see if I change everything that is required, because these things are related. So I don't want to, get off track. Okay, so once this is done, we can save it. Takes time to save. Okay, so this is where you can save your progress, and once you want this thing to appear in this work as an application, you just publish it. Okay, we are yet to relate this, we are yet to make this available to the front end, but let's wait for that. We just need to publish, so that this is like committing the changes. All right, once this is done, we'll go back. Okay, in the breadcrumbs, we'll go to visit table. Okay, and in the forms, no, yeah, so I can go to visit table. All right, next, I should be able to edit active visits, right? So what I'll do now, again, in the data experiences, I'll go to views. Okay, so this is active visits. Okay, and then we will click on active visits view. Right, so based on the data that we have retrieved, these are the views that I can see. And this was one of the views of our Canvas app also, right? So there the views was pre-decided by the app, and it showed here. See, I selected the view and it was a, right? So that privilege I have. Okay, so active visits, this is something. But see, along with active visits, if I just drag it here, there are other things that I added, right? I added start date, end date, start time, end time, actual, schedule. So all those things I'll have to add now, right? So if you see this view column here, I select on view column, and I'll first add code. Okay, then again we'll keep on adding. So first code, then visitor, then schedule start, then schedule end. Okay, and then there is one column that is created on, which is what it was taking from the data, but I don't need it, right? So it don't need. So what we can do is select this and remove. So that column is gone. Okay, next thing that we want to do is, so once this is removed, we can resize from here, just as we do in Excel. We can resize. Okay, then under sort by, this sort by, we will select schedule start, because we want to sort by schedule start. So this is sorted by schedule start. Now if I click on this, I can not this, actually the word schedule start, I can select it from newer to older, so that I see all the updated visitor request, right? Schedule request. All right, this is done. Now we can save it and publish. Okay, now we will create. So the views that were already there were dependent on what data I was having. I can create a new view, right? So we will create a new view for today's visit, right? So for example, if I create a visit for today's date, I should be able to see all those visits in today's date, right? So what I'll do, I'll create a view in, as a today's visit. Okay, so how do we do that? We'll go to same view. So what we are trying to do here, we are, instead of doing the new view, it will open a blank view, right? Blank view, then add new columns, and everything will be done from the scratch. So rather what we'll do, we'll select this, the structure of same view, or keep the structure of this view or the view that we're creating as same, just modify that. Okay, so what we'll do, rather instead of creating a new view, what we'll do is save this view as a different name. Okay, so we'll save it as today's view. So this save as just act as the way we save documents, right? When we create, when we do save, the documents will be overwritten. Okay, but when we do save as, we can rename the file and a new instance of that file will be created with the new name, right? So that's what we are doing. So we have a view that was visits. Okay, so we are changing that and creating a new instance of same view as today's view to today's visits, and we are trying to modify that. Okay, so that is what we are doing. So it will be today's visit, to say today's visits, and we'll save. So what will happen, we'll be having two views, same data for now, then we'll change the data. Right, so see, the data is same because we have just did save as, right? But now the view is different, it's today's visits. Okay, what we need to do is edit the filter. So in edit filters, what we need to add is a new row. Okay, what that new row be? It will be named as schedule start. Okay, schedule start and equals today, because we're talking about today's visit. Okay, this is the new row that we are creating, and this row we don't want, so we can delete this row. Okay, once this is done, we can click on OK. All right, so the view is created. What we can do is, similarly as we added new columns, what we can add is add new columns here. Okay, so what will be the new column that we are adding? Actual start, because actual start and actual end we did not add there. So it will be actual start and actual end. Right, so this is how it will work. Once this is done, we can save and publish. So new view is actually getting saved and published. Okay, so we had the database, we loaded it, and we created multiple views of it. All these views will be used as, or will be taken from by the app and will be shown with the help of galleries, right? So we have galleries which actually show, retrieve the data and show them as is. So that's why we are creating different views, so that gallery is able to show different views. Okay, so that is what we will do, right? The views are ready. Now we'll create a model driven. Okay, we created Canvas app, it retrieved the data and showed data according to its own will. Okay, but now we will be creating a model driven app which will be based on views, and we will decide what to show. Okay, all right, so we'll go back to this. We have saved this, right? So we'll go back. In the home, we will create blank app. Okay, and see, we are now getting three different things, right? So one is blank Canvas app, blank app based on Dataverse, meaning model driven, and third one is Power Pages website, meaning portal, right? So I'll just create the model driven app. Okay, we can name it Bellows Campus Management, as it says, right? You can name it Bellows Campus Management. Leave the description and everything as is. We'll create. Okay, once it is created, we'll click on add page. So add page will actually take care of from where we are exactly adding, right? So it is actually Dataverse table, because our data is actually stored in Dataverse table. All right, and then we will be selecting the existing table. So what are the tables we are selecting? One is the visit, another one is the contact. So these are the two tables. One table we created, contact table was already there. Visit and contact. Contact. right? So once these are done, we'll click on add. Okay, so now it is taking data based on what we have given, right? So I'll show you. Give me a minute. Next, we will go to the navigation. This is navigation here. Okay, and then go to group 1. Okay, and in group 1 is selected. What is the next thing? On the right side of the screen in a display option section, change the title property to security. Security. Okay. In the navigation pane under the security group, select sub area 1, this one. All right, and select the ellipses, and from the menu that appears, select remove from navigation. Ellipses meaning this, and then you have to remove from navigation. Okay, so let's see once this is happening. Then what we'll do is save. Let's save it. Once saving is done, we'll publish it. You see there are 2 tables used, and views will be dependent on these 2 tables, right? Okay, so we're done. Now we want to test what we are actually getting, right? So I'll go to play, because play will give you the interface of what application you have created. Now we'll test apps. Yes, we are 5 minutes late. It'll take another 5-10 minutes, and then we can see. All right, so we can see that there are my active contacts, right? So this is actually the interface of table, and we can see contacts and visits. All right, so all the visits that are there. Now these views we have created, and therefore we are able to see this, right? So when I go to contacts, there are no contacts. We'll create a contact, right? So I'll just click on new. Okay, and now what do you see here? You'll see the information or the form that is coming here is actually, no, wait, we are, where do we want to go? My active contacts, click new, first person, John. Okay, wait, visits. Create a new contact. What contact? Okay, so we'll yeah, so here we'll put the first name as John as it suggests. Okay, the last name Doe, John Doe, and in the email I'll write this, right? No, this is the ID. We'll write the email. Okay, we'll leave this email as is. Okay, the ID that we have taken, the administrator ID. Okay, now what is these columns? Job title, account name, mobile phone, fax, address one. How are these coming from? We have not created these, right? So these are coming from contacts table. You remember we created only visits table. Therefore, the tables and fields we are taking actually depend on visits, on what we created. But in context table, we just selected because it was a pre-existing table, right? So with pre-existing table, there were all these things. What is required at this point? Just the name and email at this point, right? So with this, we will just save and close. Okay, now in the my active contacts, you should be able to see full name and email. Okay, now we'll use this contact to add an entry in the visits table. Okay, so now we'll go to visits. We'll create a new. Okay, and now what is this form? This form is actually the one that we have created for the table, right? Okay, so name of visit, it can be any name visit. So what we are putting is new test visit. Test visit 1. I'll just put 1 because we'll be creating 2 visit, because we also need to check my today's visit thing, right? Okay. Visitor John Doe. So it will, why is John Doe coming here? Because we have related visitor table with context table using the contact ID. right? So while creating a visitor, we had a relationship, right? And that was selected to visitor, contact ID, right? Then this schedule start, these fields are taken accordingly because we have made date time, right? So one I'll make for today, right? 8 a.m. let's say, not 8 a.m. Change it to 1 p.m. Okay, and scheduled end. It's today itself, right? Nobody will stay for a visit for 1 day. We'll keep it as say 2 p.m. Okay. Actual start and actual end are optional, so we'll leave it. Okay, so we'll save and close. Okay, so active visits is okay, but when I go to today's visits, which is the view that I've created, I should be able to see the visit, right? I should be able to see today's visit. Okay, and also we can, if I create a new record, for example, I go to active visits and I create a new, which is new test visit to visitor again. Let's say John Doe who wants to visit again, and scheduled start is 5th. Okay, 8 a.m. and scheduled end is 5th again, but say 9 a.m. Okay, we'll again leave the actual start as is, but we'll save and close. Okay, let us search from here. Okay, so it's not an active visit because that visit is the date or time of that visit is later, right? But when I go to today's visit, I should be able to see only visit one. Why? Because today's visit was done on 4th, but the next one, the test 2, that was done on 5th. So that was tomorrow. So it won't show today's visit. Let us see inactive visits. Okay, fine. So active visits, it will show all the visits that have happened, scheduled, everything. But today's visit, it will show according to date. Right. Inactive visit, I guess it is a view that is taken, but we have not set anything what needs to be shown there. Right. So let's leave it that. So here we are able to create an application that is model driven. It is driven by model. Okay. Now apart from this, we can visualize, which we'll see later. All right, we can flow. I mean, what will happen if there is a scheduled visit, right? What will happen if there are number of today's visit? What should happen? What should the app do, right? Things like that. Okay, and then email a link. This is actually happening by functions. So we create functions and then we add additional task. So that task is nothing but email. So all these things can be attached now. We have created the basic model driven app. Okay, so the next part of it is how to build an automated solution, which we'll see when we go through the part of Power Automate. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you as a part of practical also. I'll be open to take the doubts. Okay, any issues? I was audible throughout, right? I hope. Because I was not able to check whether there are doubts or something. I was just going through the thing, right? I hope I was able to get up. Okay, let me see if there are hands raised here. Yes, Sharath.
Hey, sir. First question. So we discussed earlier that we can initially set up our environments, like in the trial version, you were able to do the practice environment, right? And then probably in a normal setting, we'll have maybe dev, test, and production, as you said. And each app that we are building, first we'll put it in dev, and then we'll have the same thing in test, maybe with different configuration and a different configuration in production, right? So once we publish, so is it like, first we have to complete everything in dev, we publish it there, then we move to test, and then we publish, and then finally to prod. Is that how it's done for PowerApps? Or it doesn't matter. You can do something in test without having to do it in dev, vice versa.
Right. So I mean, here, see, when we are working with PowerApps, we did this lab assignment and we did not see a clear distinction, right? We could test it there itself, we could create it there itself. So I'm not really sure how that is working at this point.
Okay.
That there are 3 different environments that we're creating. So we created environment at the very first point, and we could also test. All right. Now with the test, I mean, this is probably the local testing that I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
If I want this test to appear to multiple people that are there in the environment, I'll have to probably change the environment to testing, something like that. This is what I'm assuming. I'm not really sure. Let me confirm this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the test, when there could be like in anyway, business can do it themselves. So there is no need for an entire set of developers, testers like a traditional app. So probably that's one reason. But I was just curious, right?
No, I understand. I mean, even that's a good question actually. Even I was not really sure. So see what is happening here. What I can assume at this point is, let's say we created this application and we tested also, right? So how did we test? We clicked on that play button, and then we could see what is happening with the application. That is one thing. But let's say if my application is having multiple interfaces, one for admin, one for user, and I want to see what I mean, how admin or how changes done by admin are reflected on the interfaces done on the users, right? So probably for that I'll have to share the application with multiple people, and that is probably possible in testing environment.
Correct.
Right?
And
So that is something I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But let me confirm that.
Sure, sir, no problem. So, and also it is the SharePoint Online, right? The whole setting that we are looking at. And in SharePoint Online, if you build an app using, let's say, not Power App, let's say SharePoint Framework, you are building an app, then we have a concept of site collections, right? So usually at least I'm not very aware about it, but what I know is when you are building an app using SharePoint Framework, you will have individual site collections. So for your environments, right? How does that the Power App set work? Because I'm thinking when you say environment, I'm thinking that okay, probably it's a site collection. Is that right or no? I'm completely off track.
So basically, you want to know whether this application is, I mean, how is it shared among environments or what?
What my question is, when we create an environment, are we creating a site collection in SharePoint Online? Do we know that, or it's something a different entity, different concept?
I not able to relate it with site collection at this point, because what exactly do we store there? What exactly do we, collect?
Even I'm also not very much aware.
Okay.
So yeah, what I know is there is a concept of site collection when you build applications in SharePoint Online using SharePoint Framework, and I was trying to relate it with Power App, but that's okay. That's okay. So.
Okay.
And also another question: you clicked a button, then when we saw an ER diagram initially, the visit, the contact, and there was another entity. So I'm that's so when we that ER diagram, we'll have to do like a traditional thing, right? We look at a use case, then we come up with the ER diagram like we traditionally do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and then we put it in this setting, the Power Apps.
Right.
Okay.
Same thing with the wireframe. So probably we discussed it yesterday, right? So these things are not cannot be. I mean, they don't necessarily need to be a part of Power App. Okay, we can. I want to create an application, and wireframes and everything are giving me the flow of application. Okay, but a lot of flow is actually taken care of by Power Automate. So, I mean, do I really need to create a wireframe and then go ahead, or do I really need a schema? Can I not do it with something that I have in mind? Right, and these are like documentation. So you want to share your application. See, we took this use case of Bellows College. How could we understand how to relate tables? Because of that PR diagram. So when you want to document and share things, it is better to have everything documented, right? And that it is a different part. That is the reason we did not have any component in the screen or functionality in the screen where we could see the ER diagram. That was altogether a different entity we saw in a repository.
Right. Okay.
Right. So I mean the overall process is same. Okay, you create a wireframe, you decide what you want to store at one place, what you want to store in another table, and how they are related. That you set, and then that becomes easy because the very first thing that we did after setting up the environment was create the database. Right. So and why is this? Why are these things important? Because generally the changing or alterations of database and their schema is a big task rather than changing a functionality of an application.
Mhm.
Right, because there is a lot of configuration involved. So once the data is configured and deployed, database is configured and deployed, it becomes tough to change the schema more than it is tough to change the functionality. Right, so that designing of database schema, tables, their connection, if that is well defined beforehand, it is good.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
And another,
Again, who will decide what record needs to be stored and what can be a parameter that will decide certain insight? That is again done by business users, right? Developers by themselves won't know.
right, right.
Yeah. So it can be database design. Wireframes can be an independent entity that could go on initially, and once you are in the PowerApps, then you can leave it as it is.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yep. And sir, the Canvas app that you demoed earlier, I didn't see an option. You know, yesterday we discussed. Initially, we select the canvas. Is it a tab view or a mobile view? And you mentioned there is a possibility to put it in the desktop view also. So did we go through that? I didn't.
No,
I saw some
I just showed that the template. I mean, what happened is here the assignment or the lab is designed in a way that it directly selects a template for you. Okay, what if I want to do it by from myself? I want to do it from the scratch. I just delete all the screens that were there by default.
Right.
Okay, because that edit screen, detail screen, everything that was created, that was taken as a template. What I can do is select a new screen and open a blank canvas.
Oh, right,
Okay,
right.
and
Like
then
nothing is there. Got it.
nothing is there. Then I'll import with the help of tools and everything. I'll import the buttons, galleries, forms, and then populate the data. So that thing was done for us because it is considered that we are, and anyway, not considered, we are actually at the very basic stage of PowerApps.
Right.
Okay, so even for tutors to come up with a blank canvas and show up, that might require some more training.
Got it.
Yeah, so for that they just did basic, and then they show the power of Canvas app that once you are ready with this basic canvas, you can also make modifications. So we can completely go ahead and change that view, right? And every time you want to add a new view, how would you do that? You'll just add a new screen and decide on whether it is a template based or blank.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So yeah.
And sir, this is where you develop the Power App, right? And I believe we published it. And can you open it as how it will look for a user, the published one in a browser?
We'll probably come to that in later sessions.
Okay, later. Okay. All right. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Okay, fine. Yeah, there was somebody else was also raising hand. Anyway, any other questions? You can just raise your hand. Yeah, Shahid.
Yeah, hello, sir. So most of the questions are answered. A small follow-on question to the last question: is the app available to us, the published app?
is the app available to you? I'll check that and let you know. Okay, because see, we are doing this on virtual machine, right? So what is the scope of this machine is what I'm yet to find out. I'll let you know if that app is available.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a component of sharing an app. When it is shared, how is it available? I'll just go through that and let you know. Probably it will come in. I mean, once we are done with Power BI and everything, probably we'll be able to share it better way. But will it be shared within the virtual machine, or I can share you as a physical app is not is what I'm not sure about. Okay, let me get back with that.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Ashik.
Yeah, sir. So am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, I also had the same doubt. Thank you for clearing it. As well as there are some technical doubts if as in the access to the portal and all. If there is no more doubt on the content, then maybe I can ask the stuff. Yeah.
Okay, wait. So let me ask Saktivel first if that doubt
Sure,
is
sure.
related. Yeah.
It's not a technical doubt. The time is running at the top, like it is 15 hours more. So when we start using this virtual desktop, so after the 15 hours completed, can we, within 15 hours, do we have to complete this assignment and we have to get used to it, or it will be changed? The timing will be updated.
No. What you can do is, see, what I'll do is in menu, I'll end it.
Okay.
And I can restart it.
Okay, it will start from 14 hours.
Yeah. So it will be starting from, it will be starting from 16 hours, I guess.
Okay.
So actual time of the lab, it will be starting from there. But your environment will be already existing because you did not delete that, right? So your process will be saved because we have did that, right? Saving and publishing multiple times.
Okay. Okay.
So that should remain one thing. And what you can also do is, if that is not the case, you can just do the same operation once again and get back.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So even for the tomorrow session, when I'll be continuing from the already saved environment. I won't delete the environment and I'll continue with that. Okay. So I guess we have opened this lab till 12th. So it should be available till 12th of March. Okay. Sharath, you again have a doubt?
Oh, I think my hand was not lowered, but since I got the chance, sir, I didn't see that stop the timer running. So is it that we have to complete this particular lab in 14 hours?
It's like you complete in one go. It's like the time you would require to actually get through all the things that we discussed and everything. But what I said was you can end it, okay, and ending it would end the lab, but won't delete the environment.
Okay.
Okay, so what you can do is when you come back, you can do it in steps. The only thing is you have to enter labs every 3 days so that your progress is not lost, because after 7 days your progress will be lost, something like that.
Okay, so we have to every now and then we have to log in.
Yeah, so you can do it in parts also. No issues.
So
Just
sir,
don't delete the environment, so everything will be maintained.
Got it. If I end it, then the timer will stop on its own.
Yeah, the timer will stop, and when you end it, it is like the terminating of the process, right? So when you restart the lab, a new virtual machine will be enabled, instance of that, and you can restart the lab, and when you open the environment, your application should be there. So the time, I guess, will be restarted from 16 hours.
Oh, it will. Okay. Pardon my ignorance. I'm new to this setting. So
yeah, I myself am new to this, right?
okay.
Yeah, how these things work, but this is what I've observed, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yes, Ashik.
Yeah, sir. So the access to the portal thing.
Access to the portal meaning?
Yeah. So once we log into the MSLE Learn on Demand website, we have to sign in or register with training key.
Yeah, you have to register with your training key. Don't need to sign in.
Okay. Because we had our previous, as in the workshop for Azure sign in already, right? So once we do that, our domain name is onlinedegree.iitm.ac.in, and now that domain name is changed. So I guess sign in won't work, right? We have to
it
register.
Works. It works. I mean, we have to sign in, so it is working with online degree.
Oh, okay. So
okay,
it
but
will
will be doing this lab provided, I mean, as a
with
student for
training
this
key.
course, right? So you'll be doing with training.
Okay, sure, sir. And once the training key is redeemed, is there any specific time period to complete the lab assignments?
By 12th of March, I guess.
Okay, so before 12th of March, we have to complete all the lab assignments, right?
Right.
Once the training key is redeemed. Okay, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, Kavita.
Good afternoon, sir. Actually, I was trying to follow up with you when we were doing the lab assignment, and at that time, I was getting everything but that PQ practice. That particular option was not coming for me. So I will again go through all the steps. But in case I get stuck again because of that, how will I resolve that? Because unless and until I get that PQ practice option, I cannot go ahead, right?
No, why? PQ practice you don't need, right? Why?
You have to select that and then only I'll get that. No, that's what
The thing is, no. See, what happens is I mean, when you go from the scratch, you will be asked to create a new environment.
Okay.
So that new environment, what should be the name, how it should be created is given, right? So here.
Okay.
Validate
so
lab
probably
environment.
I was following up at that time, so I missed that particular one. I thought
the PQ practice was the initial environment that I created for actually going through what is there in the thing, right?
Okay, fine.
And what happens is it allows only one environment. That's why I deleted that and created a new one.
Okay, I'll go through it again then. Maybe
Right. So
I missed it while following.
Right, yeah. So when you open this, you won't see PQ practice. You should be able to directly create a new environment.
Okay, perfect. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any other doubts? Slides will be available. Lectures will be recorded. No issues. Okay, so is that fine? If there are no more doubts, then we'll close the session, because then you can practice and okay. Yeah, Ajit.
Sir, did we get slides on mail?
Yeah, you should get slides on mail.
Because yesterday is also said, but I haven't got any such
okay.
yesterday session.
Okay, Nikita,
Okay.
can you?
Yeah. So today you must have received one email. So where you get the drive link, and there the slides are available. So just check there. Also, if you are on Teams, I have posted last night the slides for yesterday's session.
Yeah,
So
it's posted on Teams, but
yeah, even in the mail. Yeah,
I checked my mail.
Morning, yeah, today morning, like right at 10 2 or 5. You must have received one email where you have a drive link, and there in the drive link you can find the slides. Just check it once.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we have sent it today. So in the same drive link, you will update the today's slide.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so some of the students may not see repo, so don't worry about that, because repo only has files that you'll be using for the labs, right? So, and all the files we are anyway downloading initially, right? So you don't need to worry about if the repo is not there. Okay. Yes, Adamya or Kavita, you still have doubt or?
No, sir, I don't have doubt. Sorry,
okay.
I forgot to.
Okay, Adamya.
Hello, sir. Actually, because of some reasons, I joined late the class. Like I joined by 11:18. So will it affect my attendance, or I mean, because it said it should be 90% attendance in the whole course, in the whole like.
Okay,
in 3 days
Nikita.
workshop.
Yeah, your attendance will be recorded. So no, don't worry about it. If you have attended the session, if you're there, it will be recorded.
So this 90% attendance is basically a 3 days workshop attendance, or it will be a whole attendance, like whatever the sessions happen.
It's 3-day workshop attendance, and you just try to be there as much as possible.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Any other doubt? Yeah, not sure you can use this lab. This will be expired, right? So you won't be able to use this lab after 12th March. Okay, fine. Then if there are raising of hands, somebody. Okay, so if there are no more doubts, shall we close then? Okay, wait. Sharanya?
Sir, I didn't get the training key. So will it be provided to us via email, or should we just keep on looking refreshing that spreadsheet we were sent?
Saranya, we have the drive link where the training keys are available. So once we get more training keys, we'll update in the same link, same sheet. And
Okay,
we'll
sir.
also send a message that we have added the training link. I had also asked you what is your full name, because I could see your attendance yesterday and I couldn't find it. Can you tell your full name?
Yeah, it's Saranya Nayak, ma'am.
Saranya Nayak, right? Okay. So
Yes.
I can add the training key for you today.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't see any raised hands now. Is that okay? Fine. Shall we close the session then? We'll meet you tomorrow. Okay, same time, 10 o'clock, and we'll be working on, proceeding forward with the other components, that is Power Automate and Power BI, and glimpse of Power Virtual Agents. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll see you tomorrow.